LangChain is a framework that allows you to build applications on top of LLM or large language model. In this crash course video, we are going to go over all the basics of LangChain, and then we will build a restaurant idea generator application using Streamlit, where you can input any cuisine, Indian, Mexican, etc., and it will generate a fancy restaurant name along with the menu items. First, let us understand what is LangChain and what kind of problem does it address. When you are using ChatGPT as an application, internally it is making call to OpenAI API, which internally uses any LLM such as GPT 3.5 or 4. In this case, ChatGPT itself is not an LLM, it is an application. Whereas GPT 3.5, 4, these are large language models. Now let's say you want to build an application for restaurant idea generator where you give a cuisine and then it will generate a fancy name such as Taco Temptation for Mexican and menu items as well. Let's say you give Indian cuisine, it will say, okay, curry palace or Sahara palace for Arabic along with these menu items. So this is a sample application which we are going to build, but this is an LLM based application. And for this, we can use the same architecture as ChatGPT, where we can directly call OpenAI API. And here I have provided a screenshot of their main API. So you can call it and you can get a behavior similar to ChatGPT. Internally, it will use GPT 3.5 or GPT 4 model. In this case, once again, restaurant idea generator is an application similar to ChatGPT, but internally you are using OpenAI API and the LLMs. Now, there are a couple of limitations of following this approach. And by the way, the reason I'm telling you this is nowadays there is a big boom in the industry where every business wants to build their own LLM. You would think why they can't use ChatGPT, because ChatGPT has no access to your internal organization data. So people want to build applications which are based on LLM. Okay, so there is a clear demand and clear boom in the industry for this. And why do business not use this kind of architecture? Well, there are a couple of things to consider. First of all, calling OpenAI API has a cost associated with it. For every 1,000 token, they will charge $0.002 or something. You can check OpenAI pricing page, but there is a cost associated with it. And if you're a startup who is having funding issues and your budget is limited, this is going to be a bottleneck for you. Another thing is, you might have noticed ChatGPT doesn't answer latest question. Its knowledge is limited to September 2021. As of this video recording. So if you want to incorporate some latest information, let's say from Google, Wikipedia, or somewhere else, you can't get that here. The other issue is Atlic is my own software development and data science company. If I want to know how many employees joined last month, ChatGPT can't answer because it doesn't have access to my own internal organization data. So if you use this kind of architecture for building your application, you will hit some roadblocks, or you will rather have some limitation. And look, OpenAI guys are pretty smart actually. If they want, they can address all of this, but their stance is very clear. We will provide foundational APIs, and building framework is something that other people should do. And that's what happens. See, if you have just OpenAI API, it is not enough to build LLM. Therefore, you need some kind of framework where you can call OpenAI GPT 3, GPT 4, or maybe if you want to save the cost, you call some open source models such as Hugging Face, Bloom. There are so many models out there. Let's say you want to use them. You don't want to spend money on OpenAI GPT 3 model. Then this framework should provide that plug and play support. Where you can integrate to one of these models and your code kind of remains the same. This framework should also provide integration with Google search, Wikipedia, or even integration with your own organizational databases so that the application can pull information from these various sources as well. And this framework is LangChain. That is what it does. It's a framework that allows you to build applications using LLM. Okay, let's install LangChain now and do some initial setup. Let us first create an account on OpenAI. You can go to OpenAI website, click on login and create a login using Google or individual email credentials. And once your login is created, you will come to a dashboard. So let me just show you. So you'll go to OpenAI, say login, you're logged in, click on API, and then from your account you can go to your manage account and API keys. You will find a key here which will look something like sk hyphen something. That is like a password, so you need to use that key in our code for LangChain. You can also create a separate keys for separate projects. So I have some client projects going on, YouTube tutorials, so for each of them I have a separate key. In your case you can just use the one key. By the way, you can generate a new key here as well. So let's say you copy that key to some secure place. After that you won't be able to access it here, so you have to delete and create a new key. Okay, so let's say you have that key ready with you here, then you can just import OS module, and then in OS module you can create an environment variable with that particular key. Your key will be sk something. Okay, in my case I have stored that key in one Python file. Okay, I don't want to share that key with all of you. That is the reason. And that Python file looks something like this, secret underscore key.py. It will have my own internal key. I can have n number of keys here, and I'm just importing that variable here and just setting it here. Control enter, so that thing is set. Now let's go to the terminal and install some modules. So you're going to install LangChain module, that's number one. And the second module you're going to install is called pip install OpenAI. Once you have installed those modules, let's now import few important things from LangChain. We are going to import the LLM called OpenAI. Now we are using OpenAI because OpenAI, I know it costs some money, but it is the best one. If you want some other ones, then just hit tab and it will just show you Hugging Face, whatever the other type of whatever other LLMs that it has available. It will show you all of that. We are right now happy with OpenAI, and then I will create my OpenAI model. It has a variable called temperature. Now what temperature means is how creative you want your model to be. So if the temperature is set to, let's say, 0, it means it is very safe, it is not taking any bets. But if it is 1, it will take risk, it might generate wrong output, but it is very creative at the same time. I tend to set it to 0.6, 0.7, things like that. And now in that LLM you can pass any question. So let's say I want to open a restaurant for Indian food and I want some fancy name for it. I'm not able to come up with that product name idea or restaurant name idea. And let's see what this guy does. And I typed in the same question in here also. See, I want to open a restaurant for Mexican food. It told me this. If you say Indian food, it will tell you something else. So we are using essentially the same concept here. Okay, so here it says, okay, Maharaja's Palace Cuisine. If you say Italian food, see, the name sounds real as if it's an Italian restaurant. So we have imported that OpenAI class which created an LLM, and in the LLM we are just passing a simple text. Now I don't want to keep on changing this same string, so I will now go ahead and create something called a prompt template. So from LangChain.prompts you can import a prompt template, and in that prompt template you can pass some variables such as input variable. What will be the input variable, by the way? Variables, it will be a cuisine, and then the template that you want looks something like this. So I'll just copy paste here, and what we are doing is just changing that Italian etc with that cuisine variable, and this template is called prompt template. And let's say this is for a restaurant name, that's why I'm saying name here. And once that template is created, you can just say prompt template name dot format, and in that format you can pass cuisine as, let's say, Mexican. And see, I want to open a restaurant for Mexican food. If you say Italian, it will say Italian food. This is more like a Python string formatting. You would be wondering why you don't use Python string formatting. Well, let me just show you that using something called chain. So we are going to use this concept of chain in LangChain, and it is one of the most important objects in LangChain framework. You can figure out from the name of the framework itself. And we are importing LLM chain. And LLM chain is essentially a very simple object where you are saying my LLM is this, whatever you created here, okay, that is my LLM, and my prompt is this prompt template, and this is my chain. And in the chain you can say chain.run. Let's say I want to open a American restaurant. See, the all American grill and bar. So now here I don't have to pass the whole sentence. I want to open a restaurant for this, that. I just pass the cuisine, the variable, and it will just work every time. Mexican. See, so internally it is calling OpenAI API, and we made that connection via this module here. So if you were using Hugging Face, then you'll have to do the Hugging Face setup, and it will call Hugging Face. Okay, here we are kind of paying that cost. But by the way, when you created that OpenAPI account, you got $5 free credit, so you should be okay. $5 is more than enough for initial learning and exploration, and after that, if you like it, you can go ahead and pay money. So that is the simple chain that we got here. Now let's look at something called a sequential chain. So let me just explain the concept first. So far what we did is we had this chain for generating restaurant name, and it was generating it. But let's say for that restaurant you want to generate a menu item, food menu items. So you can have this second component or a second chain where you pass restaurant name as an input, and it should give you the menu items that you should include in that restaurant. So if it is Indian restaurant, it will say paneer tikka, mango lassi, etc. If it is Mexican, it will say quesadilla, burrito, things like that. This thing is called simple sequential chain. And let's code that up. But just to clarify the idea here, you have one input and one output, and you can have intermediate steps where the input of the second step is the output of the first step. It is as easy as that. So here, once again, I'm generating everything from scratch. I have generated the name chain the same way that we did before. This is the exact copy paste of the previous code, so nothing fancy here. And then we are going to create another chain, and I'm just copy pasting just to save your time, where the input is restaurant name, and we are saying suggest me some food menu items for restaurant that. So it is like saying this. See, you are saying I want to open a restaurant for Indian food, suggest a fancy name for this, only one name please. So let's say you talk to ChatGPT and ChatGPT generated this. Now you are saying that generate food menu items for saffron spice, and then return it as a comma separated list. See, this is what you want. You want to generate all this list, and you have now two chains, which we are going to do control enter and execute this code. And now from LangChain dot chains, it will show you all kind of chains. You're going to import a simple sequential chain. Okay, and that simple sequential chain will contain these individual chains that we created. And by the way, the order matters here. So this is a restaurant name chain, and then you have a food item chain, and that's it. And now you will say chain.run. Let's say you want to generate it for Indian food. You're getting a response here, and you print a response. Sometimes it takes time, so you have to wait for a few seconds, but it will generate the menu items. Ta-dan, ta-dan. See, lamb korma, vegetable chal fry, saag paneer, yummy, huh? You're probably getting water in your mouth. Let's do Mexican for all those Mexican food lovers. So while this chain looks good, it is generating those food menu items. I'm not getting the restaurant name as such, because say for Mexican food it is saying all these items, but what is the restaurant name? That was that intermediate step here. That was the intermediate step, but in the output, in the simple sequential chain, it gives you just one output. But I want the restaurant name and the menu items both. For that, we have to use a different chain called sequential chain. And this sequential chain can have multiple input, multiple outputs. So I can just say, okay, give me a name for Indian restaurant, which is vegan. And then in the output, I can say, give me a restaurant name and items both as an output. All right. So let's try something like this here. I think this whole code kind of remains the same. I'm just going to add one or two extra things here. So see, this is my first chain, and the extra thing that I have added is the output key. So the output of the first chain is the restaurant name, and the second chain looks something like this, where the output key is menu items. Okay. And now let's create the simple sequential chain. So I'm going to say from LangChain.chains import sequential chain. We already used simple sequential chain. This is a sequential chain which is little kind of generic. So sequential chain will take, what kind of parameters will it take? Well, first of all, it will say chains, and these are the two chains I have. And then my input variables, you can specify all the input variables. So input variables, I'm not including that vegan, etc. Let's keep things simple. All I want is two output, remaining things are same. Okay. So in the output variables, I should say that I want a restaurant name and the menu items as my output variable. And let's call this a chain. And by the way, when you run this chain, you can't just say Mexican, because you might have multiple input variables. That's why you need to give a dictionary. You will say cuisine is, let's say, Arabic. Run not supported. Okay, run is not. Yeah, so run is not supported. You have to just call it just like that. No function, just chain and then bracket, just give the argument. And see, hummus with pita bread, falafel, and the name of the restaurant is the Arabian Bistro. So it's giving, in fact, it's giving input as well. So it's giving input and both the outputs. Whatever code we have written so far, we will use that code and create a Streamlit based application for restaurant name generator. I'm in my C code directory. I have created this empty folder called restaurant name generator. You see there are no files here. And I'm going to now launch PyCharm, which is a free Python code editor. And in this, you can select open and you can open that particular folder. So I will go to my C code directory, and in that I will locate a restaurant name generator, hit OK. And it will create a, I think, empty main.py file, and I can just remove the content here. And I'm going to just import a Streamlit library first. Now, if you don't know about Streamlit, it is a library that allows data scientists to build POC application, proof of concept application, simple applications very, very quickly. You don't have to use front-end frameworks such as React, JS, etc. This library will allow you to do all of these things very, very fast. So let me just show you. So you can just create a simple application with a title, restaurant name generator. And by the way, you have to do pip install Streamlit before you start using it. Otherwise, you'll get an error. So make sure you have run that. And this is the simple app with one title. Now I can go to terminal and I can just say Streamlit run main.py, and it is going to open up an application in my browser. See, simple application with this particular title. Now I can create the picker where you can pick the cuisine. And for that, I'll use the sidebar. So in Streamlit, there is something called sidebar where you can create a select box and give a name to that box. So you will say pick a cuisine and give all the options that you want in that particular drop down. So I will just put a bunch of cuisines, Indian, American, Mexican, and so on. And then here you will say if, or let me just show you how this looks. So just say hit Control S, save, and click on rerun. You can go here and rerun, or just press R key and it will show you. See, you get this kind of nice picker. And if someone picks any entry, let's say someone picks Mexican, what's going to happen is that call is going to return that value in a variable which we will store in this cuisine. Okay, so I will just store it in this particular variable, and you can say if cuisine, then do something. Okay, what do I want to do? I want to generate the restaurant, fancy restaurant name and list of menu items here. For that, let me just write a dummy code here. So I will just call that function, let's say get restaurant name and items, where you supply the cuisine as input, and it returns, let's say, restaurant name. It is always a good idea to write this kind of stub function or empty function so that you can check your wiring and then you can write the actual code in that function. So let's say my restaurant name is Curry Delight and my menu items is whatever items you like. Okay, so if cuisine, then get those things as a response, and then from the response, let's say the restaurant name, I can show it here on the right hand side. See here somewhere below this header, I want to show it, and I will use maybe let's say st.header. I will use st.header as a UI control. So let's do this st.header, and when I get the menu items, so let me get the menu items here. So the menu items are going to be this menu items here, and whenever you have comma separated string, you can call this split function and specify the separator, which is comma here, and this should return you a list. And once you get that list, you can iterate over that list and you can write those items here. I can just say item, and maybe I can put some character just to indicate this is an item. You can also write like kind of like a header where you'll say, okay, these are menu items. Okay, hit save. This code is ready. You go back to your UI, rerun, and see you're getting the restaurant name and the menu items. Now when you change this selection, it's not going to change because obviously we are returning the hard-coded response, and the next step is to write that code which we wrote in our Jupyter notebook and put that code here. Okay, and since I like to modularize my code, I'm going to create a new Python file. Let's call it LangChain helper. And in this file, I will copy paste this function. And here you can import that module and you just simply call that here. See? Now let's focus on LangChain helper. So what do we need to do here? Well, the same thing that we did in our notebook. So I'm just going to copy paste some code from my notebook here. Okay, we don't need to go over it because we have already written that code. I will also create a file for my secret key. So I will call it secret key. And in that secret key file, I will place my OpenAI secret key. Now I'm not going to show you my key because of course it's a private thing, but you will type whatever key you got. Remember, you got $5 credit, so you can do a lot of things with $5 is more than enough. So put that thing here, and then you are using that key. See, you are importing that variable from that Python file here directly. Okay, so my key is ready. What else do I need to do? Well, again, copy paste business, folks. Copy paste is a boon for any programmer or a data scientist. So we just copy pasted the code for the sequential chain that we wrote in our notebook. See, here we create a restaurant name chain. Here we create menu items chain, and we just return this response, folks. This is so straightforward. Okay, and I have this habit of creating this function, main function, just so that I can test it. So I will say if name is underscore main, then print generate restaurant name, let's say Italian. Okay, and now what I'll do is I'll pause the video and put my real secret key here. All right, my secret key, I have placed it, and now I can run it and see what happens. So we are generating Italian food restaurant name and the menu items. Perfect. So the restaurant name is La Dolce Vita, whatever, and menu items are Margherita pizza, Alfredo, lasagna, and all that. One thing I'm noticing here is I see some extra slash and characters here. So maybe we need to remove them. So the way to do that would be, let's go back to our Streamlit code. And instead of just saying responsible restaurant name, we can call this strip function that will remove the leading and trailing white spaces, including those slash and characters. And we can use that same thing here as well before calling split. So hit Control S, save. Let's go back, rerun. Ta-dan. See, Italian food. This is my restaurant name. Menu item, you can change it to Mexican, change it to whatever, just play with it. And folks, the art of getting skillful at coding is to practice. Just by watching this video, you're not going to learn it. So make sure you're practicing while watching this video. All right, our Streamlit application is ready. As a next step, we are going to look into something called agents, which is a very powerful concept in LangChain. And by the way, all the code that we are writing, check video description. We are going to give you all of that code. Agents is a very powerful concept in LangChain. What happens when you type this in ChatGPT? When you say, give me 2 flights, options from New York to Delhi on a given date, obviously it won't be able to answer because it has knowledge till September 2021. But if you have ChatGPT Plus subscription, there is this thing called plugins, and I have installed those plugins, especially the Expedia plugin. Expedia is a website which helps you find tickets. And when I give the same question now with the plugin enabled, magically it will start working. So it will go to Expedia plugin, try to pull the information on the flights for a given date and given source and destination, and then it will start typing those 2 options. See, number 1 option is only, I think, $500 ticket, $518 ticket, which is a pretty good deal, by the way. I think I should book it for my next India trip. And there is the second option, and it will give you a link where you can go and book those tickets on Expedia. So what exactly happened when we enable this plugin? Let's try to understand that. So when you think about LLM, many people think that it is just a knowledge engine. It has knowledge and it just try to give answer based on that knowledge. But the knowledge is only limited till September 2021. The thing that we miss out is it has a reasoning component. So it is a reasoning engine too. And using that reasoning engine, it can figure out that when someone types this kind of question, see, when as a human, when we look at these questions, what do we think? Let's say if we have to go to Wikipedia, or not Wikipedia, Expedia, and if we have to type, convert this question. Let's say if your friend asks you this question, and let's say you are that reasoning engine, you go to Expedia, and in the source, you will put New York, destination, you will put Delhi, date, you will put 1st August. How can you do that? Because you have that reasoning engine in your brain. Similarly, LLM has a reasoning engine using which from that sentence it will figure out source is this, destination is this, that, and it will call the Expedia plugin and that will return the response back. Let's look at some other question. When was Elon Musk born? What is his age now in 2023? Now, maybe this can be answered by the LLM's knowledge, but let's say you are asking some question which is related to an event which happened in 2022. Now, this guy doesn't have knowledge after September 2021, but once again, it has a reasoning capability. So it will say, okay, in order to answer that question, first I need to find out when was Elon Musk born. For that, it can use things like Wikipedia. So agents essentially do this thing. Agents will have tools, and using that tool, it will try to fetch the answer. So Elon Musk was born in 1971. And then there could be another tool which will tell you 2023 minus 1971. How much is that? So there is a math tool that it can use to compute that. And it will in the end say Elon Musk is 52-year-old. So this is what agents are. Agents will connect with external tools. It will use LLM's reasoning capabilities to perform a given task. Let's look at a different question. How much was US GDP in 2022? Plus 5, I'm doing just like it's a silly operation, no one cares. But US GDP in 2022, LLM doesn't know because its knowledge is still 2021. So it will go to Google, it will find that answer, and then it will use math tool to do plus 5. All these tools like Google search tool, math tool, and Wikipedia tools are available as part of LangChain, and you can configure your agent. So your agent is nothing but using all these tools and LLM's reasoning capability to perform a given task. That is your agent, and this agent can be used in our Jupyter notebook. So that's what I'm going to show you next. So let's first import couple of important modules and classes. And once I have imported them, I will create tools. So I will say load tools, and I will give list of tools. Now, if you do Google search on tools here, so let's say if you do Google search, LangChain agent load tools, you will come here, you will see list of tools. See, I have Wikipedia as a tool, I have Twilio, I have all these tools that I can use. So we are going to use Wikipedia tool here. It is called Wikipedia, and the math tool is called LLM math. And here you need to provide the LLM variable is the one which we created above somewhere here. See, this is the variable. Okay, so this thing is called tools, and then you can create an agent using this initialize agent method. Okay, so initialize agent method will take tools, it will take LLM, and it will take agent. And in the agent, I will give this 0. Now see, hold on, 0 short React description. React means thought and action. So when we are reasoning, we first have a thought, then we figure out where to go, and we take an action. So it mimics that particular concept here. I will call this an agent, and then I will ask the question agent.run when was Elon Musk born and what is his age in 2023. So let's see what this gives us. See, perfect. It says 52-year-old in 2023. If you want to go step by step in the reasoning process, you can say verbose is equal to true, and it will tell you. By the way, verbose is equal to true is the variable that you can use here in any function to kind of figure out the internal steps that it is taking. So here, the first step, when it encounters this question, it knows actually that it has to go to Wikipedia to get the birth date of Elon Musk. So it went to Elon Musk Wikipedia page, and which will have this particular date here, and then I think it uses the math tool. Sometimes I don't know, it should have used the math tool. Elon was it doesn't show, but if you rerun it again, Okay, I don't know why this is not working, but previously I was seeing that. Let me show you a previous snapshot that I have. Here it says, okay, it went to Wikipedia for Elon Musk's birth date, and then it used the action as a calculator. So there it is using the LLM math tool, and it is just calculating the final answer. It is saying it is 52-year-old. Let's try a different option. So this time we are going to use SERP API. So if you don't know about SERP API, it is Google Search API. Whatever you do in Google and what results it gives you, if you want to access those results programmatically, you can use this particular API. You can log in using your Gmail account. I have already logged in. And when you go to dashboard, it will give you this API key. So this is similar to our OpenAI API key. It will be a big string. I have stored that API key into my private file, that secret key file that I have, and I'm going to initialize some environment variable. So for SERP API, you need to initialize this variable, and this is the key which I got from there. Okay, so you can just copy paste this key if you want to keep things simple. I don't want to show that key publicly here. That's why I have this thing here. And once I have this thing, the next steps are kind of similar. So I can just copy paste pretty much everything here, and I will just say, okay, initialize the agent. SERP API and LLM math are the two tools I'm going to use. And in my agent, I will say agent.run. And what was the US GDP in 2022 and +5. Okay. And while it is executing it, let's do Google here. So when you do Google US GDP 2022, it will tell you 25.46. So this SERP API, this API will do Google search, and it will tell you the answer, that it is this. So check this. So first it is searching US GDP this, and then it is adding 5 number to this, and it is giving you this particular result. We'll talk more about agents in our future videos. One thing I've noticed is agents are not perfect. Sometimes they give stupid answer. This whole thing is evolving, so in the future it will get better. But for agent, this is what we have, and now we will talk about memory. When you look at any chatbot application such as ChatGPT, you will notice that it remembers the past conversation exchange. Here I asked who won the first cricket World Cup, then a totally irrelevant conversation, what is 5 + 5. Then I'm asking who was the captain of the winning team. Now see, here I did not say which match, which game, cricket, football, etc. But it remembers that I'm talking about cricket, and it is giving me a relevant answer. Same thing happens with human conversation. We start a topic, then we keep on saying things, but we remember what the topic is about. If you look at the LLM chain, by default, these chains do not have memory. They are stateless. And if you look at the available methods that this chain has, you'll find that it has an element called memory. Here, see memory. And if you check the memory, so here, if you try to print the memory, see, you don't get anything because the object is set to none. Now, if you want, you can attach memory to it. So for memory, you have to create an additional object and attach it so that it remembers all these conversations. This is useful, especially if you're building a chatbot, let's say for your customer care department. In that, many times they need to save the transcripts of those conversations for legal and compliance reasons. So here, I'm going to import an object called conversational buffer memory, which is a very common type of memory in LangChain module, and create an object of that class. So I will just say this is a conversational buffer memory, and then the same chain I will print here, but I will just pass memory as an additional argument. Okay. And then I'll run the same chain one more time for a different question. Now, when you look at chain.memory, see, there is a memory attached to it. We explicitly attach this conversation memory to it. And if you look at the buffer and if you just print it for nice alignment, etc., see, human, then AI this, human, and AI this. Now this looks good. You can save this into your database as a saved transcript of your customer service center conversation. But one problem with this particular object, which is conversation buffer memory, is that it will keep on growing endlessly. So let's say you have 100 conversational exchanges, and by that what I mean is one question answer pair. So one question answer pair is one conversational exchange. This is second. So in total, this is 2 conversational exchange. So here, if you have 100 conversational exchange, what's going to happen is next time when you ask a question to OpenAI, when you say chain.run, it is going to send all this past history to OpenAI, and OpenAI charges you per token. So this is 1 token, second token, third, fourth, and so on. For 1,000 token, they charge like $0.002 something based on the model. So your cost is gonna go up. So if you want to save the cost and kind of do things in an optimized way, you need to restrict this buffer size. You can say, just remember last 5 conversational exchanges, okay? And this thing can be done using something called conversation chain. So OpenAI LangChain provides this conversation chain, which is just very simple object. So let me just create that conversation chain where you can just pass LLM is equal to OpenAI, temperature is equal to 0.7, and I'll just call it convo. And let's check the default prompt that is associated with it. See, default prompt is this. Let me just check the template. Let me just print the template associated with this. This is the default template that comes. And it says that the following is a friendly conversation between human and AI, and there is history and there is input. So if you look at this conversation window here, there is a history. This is the history. And the next question you're going to type is the input. So input, history, same way, input, history, okay? Now, when you ask a bunch of questions to this, so I'm just going to copy paste those questions here. What is 5 plus 5? And then who was the captain of the winning team? Now, when you do convo.memory, it won't be empty, because by default conversation chain has this memory associated with it. So by default, this conversation chain object comes with inbuilt conversation buffer memory. And if you print the buffer, you will see the entire transcript of our conversation. Now, while this looks good, once again, think about the OpenAI token cost. If this keeps on building the buffer endlessly, then you might have 5,000 tokens in one conversation. And when you make a next call like this, it's going to actually send entire history, entire conversation to OpenAI. And that will increase your bill on the API call. To tackle that problem, maybe what you can do is you can say, just send only last 10 or 20 conversational exchanges, because that's what I care about. That might be enough based on the use case that you're dealing with. And for that, there is an object called from LangChain.memory import. There is a conversational buffer window memory. You are restricting the window. You are saying, let's say my window, and k is the parameter. You're saying just remember only last 1 conversational exchange, which is 1 question answer pair. Okay, so let's try this out and let's see how this goes. So I'm going to copy paste some code here, created a same conversational chain object, asking my first question, asking my second question. Now, when I ask this second question here, what is 5 plus 5? It remembers the previous exchange. But when I ask the third question here, it remembers only what is 5 plus 5. It doesn't remember this. It's like a short-term memory loss, like Memento or Ghazni movie. It just forgot what happened here. So when I ask this question, it will say, I'm sorry, I don't know because it doesn't know which game you're talking about, which particular match you're talking about. Okay, so here, I know it's probably not the best example, but the idea is I wanted to demonstrate this K parameter here, and based on this use case, you might see benefit in using conversational buffer window memory. That's all we had for this video. In the future, we are going to build end-to-end LLM applications using some of the advanced features such as retrieval QA chain, the FAS, DB store, vector store, things like that. So if you want to get notified about upcoming LLM and LangChain videos, what you can do is subscribe to the channel or click the like button if you really found some benefit from this video. Making these kind of videos takes a lot of effort, and clicking that thumbs up button or subscribing or sharing this video might be a small effort for you, but it would mean a big thing for us. It will help us get this video to more people so that those people can also benefit, and we also get some appreciation, some reward of the hard work that we are putting in. If you have any question, post in the comment box below. The code link is given in the video description. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.